Today's hyper-connected and globalized markets create increasingly complex problems for contract management. Finance managers need to report on changes in the market. Purchase managers seek transparency to easily adjust to new goals. To succeed, your business needs agility and a clear view into the process. Contract Management by Cittros is the solution. Integrating seamlessly within Dynamics 365, Contract Management helps your business simplify and structure contracts in a secure, central location, free from personal dependencies and accessible to all stakeholders. Contract Management reduces the time needed to organize contracts, keeping important dates always in sight, so you'll never miss a deadline. And you can renegotiate, cancel, or renew contracts in due time. Plus, we offer unlimited support to help you as your business grows. Contract Management by Cittros. See us on Microsoft App Source or contact us directly for more information.
Please welcome our next speaker, Vera Temkov, a technical architect. Today, she will be presenting D365FO OneVersion using automatic testing RSAT Part 2. Please stick around after Vera's session for a live Q&A.
Welcome everyone. I'm glad to be part of the second conference of DynamicsCon. It is an amazing experience. Today I'm going to talk about the new world of D365 Finance and Operation OneVersion using automated testing RSAT Part 2. Some of you might say, why Part 2? Where can I find Part 1? Well, that was part of the first DynamicsCon conference, and I'm providing you a link to that presentation further in this session. I have divided my presentation in a few sections. First, I will going to talk about the importance of the automated testing process. Then I will introduce RSAT for the ones that are familiarizing with it now. And then I will continue to talk about the latest improvements of the latest version of RSAT. As a third session, I am sharing with you some lessons learned that we have learned through some real-life challenges and common mistakes. So I want to save you some time and effort by sharing them. And at the end, we have a live Q&A. The conference chat is already on, so feel free to ask any questions. I will start with the importance of the automated testing process. We know our environments are being updated with 2 major releases per year and other monthly service updates in order to keep our environments constantly into an updated version. And what do you do before this kind of updates hit your production environment? Do you allocate time for manual testing in order to ensure that your business processes are running as smoothly and as designed? Or you skip the testing at all and you implement the update directly in your production environment? That might impact into some of your business processes, and then you need to allocate time for damage control. We had our wake-up call, and after applying one of these monthly updates, our intercompany invoicing was broken. So you can imagine when the invoicing process is broken for a longer period. What if this happens to you? Which scenario do you prefer? I am saying there is a third option, and that is to automate your testing process. And that is how we get to talk about RSAT. RSAT stands for Regression Suite Automation Tool. It automates the acceptance testing process for your D365 application. And what it actually does, it uses your task recordings that you have made to record your business processes, and it converts them into automated tests. And all this automation is done without any coding needed. Let me go briefly through the integrations and which applications are integrated with RSAT to run this automation. First, I'm going to mention D365 Finance and Operation, where we create our task recordings. Then LCS, where in the business process library, we are storing and defining our business scenarios. As central repository, we have Azure DevOps, and there we are defining our test scenario, test suites, test cases. Those test scenario and cases are being used by the Regression Suite Automation Tool. And after the execution, the results are being stored to Azure DevOps. More about this flow and also how RSAT works, how to create test cases, how to link them between each other so you can have a smooth automated process. I'm talking about that in the first part. Take advantage of the Regression Suite Automation Tool in the DynamicsCon Conference 2020. This will be also shared in the Cittros virtual booth. First, I want to mention the dedication of the Microsoft team that is working for this product. They are making real effort in order to make this tool more powerful and also to answer to every reported issue. The latest version of the application is 2.1.8. It was published on 2nd of February. And now RSAT has its own section in the ideas portal. So we as users are welcome to contribute and to share our ideas, which feature do we think is needed and we want to see as a implemented feature in some of the future releases of this product. But of course, not every idea is valid, but it is important that it is there, the opportunity is there for us to contribute and to make this tool more powerful. Here comes the part where I'm sharing with you the new features of the new version of RSAT. It has new user interface, more modern, with some quick links incorporated with it. Some of those are the quick links to Azure DevOps, where here I'm showing on the screen how you can navigate to the test cases directly from the tool and open your test suites and recent runs. So this will give the navigation more easier, more smoother, and our work we will be more flexible in our work. The third one that I'm going to mention is the improved Excel parameter file. For those that are familiarizing with RSAT now, I will explain the Excel parameter file represents the place that your values for the fields that you have entered while you did the recording. For example, you can see on the screen the orange fields are the values that you have entered when you recorded this business process. And that is how those values are being represented to you. This Excel is generated automatically from the tool, and you can change these values when you want to run the automation and the tests. We will see this later in the demo. Another feature that's worth mentioning is the pause between specific test steps. Till now, it was possible to pause between whole test cases. You want to instruct the automation how many seconds you want to wait before it hits the next test case. But now it goes even deeper. It goes into instructing the automation to pause between certain steps. Here in the column E, you can see on the screen there is a pause column where you can enter the number in seconds, and that's how you will instruct the automation to complete the third line and then to wait 10 seconds before it continues to the next one. Why this is important? It is important because some of the processes and steps in the finance and operation might take longer than the automation takes those steps. So that's why you want to instruct it to wait a particular number of seconds. I'm going to mention one more, which is the possibility to use multiple filters in the filter pane. And those filters, as you use them in your task recording, will be stored as separate lines in the Excel parameter file, so you can use them as such in your automation. There are other features that are available with this latest version, but you can read about them in the release notes when you download this version. And now we get to the lessons learned. Here I want to share with you some lessons that we have learned through real life challenges and save you some time and effort. Here I'm advising you what to consider before you start to record your business scenario. I know you have your business processes already defined in your FDDs, but do you know what to consider when you do your task recording? Here in the example, I'm using the order processing, the creation of PO, confirm, post the receipt, and post the invoice. But you don't sit and do this in one go. Why am I explaining this and emphasizing this part? It's because the customer has learned their lesson. Imagine if you have a bigger process, complex one, and you start to record this without having any order, or you go back and forth in the recording process. That's why I'm saying before you start to do a recording, prepare yourself, and this is what you need to take into account. You should split the whole process and divide it by roles and batch processes or approval processes. Here in the example, I have divided this in 3 separate task recordings. This will be my 3 test cases. The first one will be the creation and confirmation of the purchase order. Second is the posting of the product receipt, and the third one is the posting of the invoice. Of course, the first one you can split into 2 more, the creation in one recording, the confirmation in second. Feel free to do that, but in order to simplify this example, I chose to use these 3. So, if I do the recording for the posting of the product receipt or the posting of the vendor invoice, I need to know which is the purchase order that I'm talking about in this process. So, that leads us to the third point, which says note what you need as input and output, because we need to chain these test cases. In the first one, the creation of the purchase order, we need as input the vendor, the items, warehouses, quantities, and etc. In order to complete and create the purchase order. And what do we get as an output as a result? we get the purchase order ID. And that is something that we need as input to the second one. We need the purchase order ID, and also we need a receipt number in order to post the product receipt. What do we get as an output in that one? We get the posted journal. For this example, I'm not using that posted journal, but in order to simplify this example. For the third one as well, we need the purchase order ID as an input, and we need an invoice number and invoice description. The invoice number should be unique in each run, right? So I will show you later in the demo how can you make a unique invoice number in each run. As a fourth step, I'm saying to consider to validate your outcome. Validate, for example, here I'm going to validate the invoice total, the amount which appears in the invoice journal. I need for that separate validation, for that separate recording, I need the purchase order ID as an input, and I have copied the total invoice amount. And that is going to be compared against, if you note in the first part of the creation of the purchase order, the net amounts of the first item and in the second one. So as output in the first recording of the creation of the PO, I have already copied the purchase order number and the net amounts from the two lines. I'm using this example in the demo, so we will see some tips which makes your life easier. Before we hit the demo, I want to talk about the preparation of the test data. You know, when you create your task recording, you have already supplied, for the example of the creation of the PO, we have already supplied a vendor, the items that we're using, the quantities, and etc. But in order to make our tests more reliable and also to maybe test the accuracy of the data that we have, it is best to randomize the data when we run this automation. So in each run, we will use a different vendor, different items, and that's how we will know that for sure our test is working, not only for the given data, but also with other values. This is something that I'm going to show also in the demo, a quicker way how can you randomize your data. And that leads us to the demo part. Here we are in my demo environment. You can see the new user interface of RSAT. On the left-hand side, you can see here are some navigation links. I will show to you a few. Here on the gear is the settings, where you have your general tab with the information how to connect to the Azure DevOps and also to finance and operation. On the optional tab, you have some options to enable or disable when you run your automations. And on the process tab, you have a possibility to send emails once this automation and results are being completed. The third option here is that you can connect to your retail POS and run this automation against your retail POS. And here are some useful links, quick links that you might need in the process. I'm going back here on the main screen. And as I told you, this is the second part, so I'm not going to show you how you can create these records here. How to record the test cases. You have that already in the first part, which I mentioned earlier. Feel free to look into it first if you are new to this. I have, for this example, for this purpose, I have already created recordings for the creation and confirmation of the purchase order, the posting of the product receipt, the posting of the invoice, and a fourth test case for validation of the invoice total. What I want to show you in the demo environment are some quick tips that you can use in your daily work with RSAT. One of them is to make the number of the invoice unique. I'm going to select the post invoice and then hit here on the parameter, which will launch the Excel parameter file. You can see the navigation steps that I have made to record this test case. And here on the number, I have supplied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 for the invoice number. But as I said, we want this to be a unique number, and for that purpose, I'm going to use Excel formulas. So I'm going to convert into text the time now, and you are free to use any format that you want. I'm going to use year, month, day, hour, minute. So we know that this is a unique number. For this one, you can also concatenate and add some prefix if you would like, or other text. Feel free to experiment, and now you have a unique invoice number for each run. I will save, you can do that same thing also for the invoice description if you would like. I'm going to save this and close. And that is how you do the unique invoice number. Next, I'm going to continue to show you how to validate the invoice total. So for that purpose, I'm going to select this test case and open the parameter file. Here you can see that I have navigated to the list of purchase orders and filtered for my order. Please remember to filter for your records. Do not pick a record directly from the grid because it's there and you can see it. For the automation, you need to filter for your records. Then I hit invoice, and from the invoice journal, I have selected for validation the invoice amount, which was this amount at that point. But as I said, I want to validate this against the net amounts from the first test case. For that purpose, I'm opening this Excel as well. And we have that Excel here launched. And you can see in the steps that I have noted while I created my purchase order, the purchase order ID, I have noted the line amount 1 and line amount 2. These fields that you see with the brackets are also appearing in the General tab in the saved variables. So I'm going to copy them from here. I'm going to copy the first one and paste it out here in the validate field. Paste. And I'm going to pick up the next one, copy that one. I don't need this recording, the first one, so I'm going to close that, and I'm going to go back to the validation of the invoice total, which I'm going to add with a plus this amount. So what I'm saying here that these two amounts should be equal, the operator equal to the amount which is on the appearing on the invoice journal. This operator is not appearing by its own. You have to enable that feature, and I will show you where. If you navigate to the settings part, here on the optional tab, you have a possibility to activate use operators for validation. And if you tick this, you will be able to see this operator here. You can use greater, smaller, different operators. For this example, I'm using equal. You can add charges to this. You can subtract discounts. Feel free to experiment and to save those details on the creation of the purchase order so you can use them further. But that is what you plan and do before you start to do your recording. I'm going to save this and close, and going back to the main screen, where now I want to show you how you can randomize your data. RSAT allows you, I'm going to keep this selected, RSAT allows you to generate derived test cases. I'm going to hit that and click OK, and I will explain you that. Here you can see that on the bottom is processing. That means it is creating a new separate test case in Azure DevOps for this particular test case. You can see this tick mark derived, which means it is using the task recording that you have done for this one, but it has its own parameter file, it has its own test case as a separate one in Azure DevOps. So you can open the parameter file for that particular one, and you can supply or change these values here as you wish, and next time that when you run this, it will be with the values that you have entered. Here I'm going to enter a different vendor, and we will use it later. I will show you why. Hit save and close. Okay. Now let me show you, I'm not finished with this example because I want to mention each time when you run this, the derived case, it will use the values that you have supplied. That's not randomizing. You, how many times, if you create 5, 6 of those, you will always have the fixed values that you have entered. So I want to spare you some time and showing you a quick way of randomizing your data. I will select the first one and open the parameters. And what I'm going to do, I'm going to create a new separate sheets, first for the vendors. And I already have a list of vendors prepared for myself to use in this example, which I'm going to paste here. And I'm going to create one more sheet, items. I will copy those items from the list here and paste them over here. Click save. And we have now two lists of vendors and items. What we want to do is to use those lists and pick a random value from those lists on each run. I'm going to do that with using Excel formulas. I will say index and from where this is the list of vendors, and I want to instruct to use a random number between 1 and 5, and each time when this is executed, it will take a different vendor from that list. We will do the same for the items as well, equal to index, and this way you can prepare the examples that you want to use, which vendors, items, or any other that you might want to use as a list of values. I'm doing for the second item the same task, and pick a random number from this array from 1 to 6 because I have 6 values here. This way you will test your data. If a warehouse is missing, somewhere not configured site or something, or you can create your demo data like this. Something that we are using, this kind of randomized creation. We are doing also to validate our process, but also to create a demo data for some examples that we have already prepared. So it's a quick way. Instead of doing, I don't know how many derived test cases, this is a quick way that you can use and create for yourself. For the derived case that we just created, if I open that, I want to show you something. I have deliberately entered this vendor because that one has configured charges on it. So when you run the creation of the purchase order, hit save, go on the action pane and hit confirm, all these steps are going to be completed successfully. But I will change just this item. I'm going to save this and we will see it in action. I want to show you why the validation of the output is needed. You can see in the bottom, it is trying to automate and pick up the execution files. While this is running, I want to tell you that you can automate this and link it together with your build process. So you don't sit and watch the execution, but you can link this with your build process. And each time when you prepare a build, the automation will be, the auto test will be executed as well. And you will be sure that your build, that build, is not causing any trouble or operational impact. You can be informed via email with the results and you can inspect them in Azure DevOps. So back to the example, our vendor has been will be selected here when we create the purchase order. And I want to bring your attention at the moment when this order will be confirmed, because I'm not doing allocation of charges. The confirmation process will fail. Just a second to populate the second item. Hit save and then on the purchase tab, we're going to confirm this with the confirmation is running, and you will see a quick short that the result is positive. Why it is positive? It is because the execution of the steps, all steps were valid. The execution was able to hit confirm. So you haven't inspected the outcome of the confirmation, so you can see it fail. So that's why I'm saying validate your outcome, check that the status of the purchase order has been changed or that the journal is created. But also, one more thing that you can do to instruct the automation that you want this test to fail is that here in the optional tab, you have a possibility to enable a feature that you want the test to fail when an error info log is there. Like in this case, you see that there was an info log error. But since I haven't enabled this, it was a successful test. So if you want, this is optional, you can enable to fail the test when the info log error is appeared. And one more thing that I want to show you to bring your attention to is the next one. What do we want? Do we want now this test to continue on the posting of the product receipt and posting of the vendor invoice? No, I don't want that. So if I want to abort the test execution on the first failure, then I'm going to tick mark this. And that will stop the execution when on the first test case that is failed. If this is not ticked, like in this example, it will continue to run for the product receipt, and we know that will fail. It will continue for the purchase, for the posting of the product invoice, and that will fail as well. So consider these options when you want to run the automation. Let me go back now to the presentation because I can talk forever, but that's the time. As a summary, I want to say use RSAT for your automation of your business processes. Integrate that with your build process so you don't sit and watch. As I said, you are able to link it with your build process and be informed via email with the results. So that way you will be more confident that there is no operational impact. Use the guidelines that we just gave you. Prepare before you start to record. I'm saying this because when you have a more complex process, you will go back and forward, edit the recording. I need this value to be saved. I need that value as an output or an input. So prepare before you start to do a recording and randomize your test data so you will have more reliable tests. At the end, thank you for your attention and for attending this session. I hope you have learned something new, something that you can use in your daily work and that will save you some time and effort. If that was the case, then I have achieved my goal. And last but not least, thanks to DynamicsCon for putting this virtual event. It is an awesome experience. And talk to you in the Q&A. The chat is already up. Hello, everyone. Thank you for listening to my session. Me and my colleague Thomas are with you tonight, and we are so excited to answer any of your questions. We can see they are coming up here on the chat. It is late evening here on our end. So, Thomas, over to you.
Thanks, Vera, for a very good presentation. I think we have seen some questions coming in, so let's get rolling with these. The first questions we have seen here is what is your experience for how long it takes to get from an initial key user task recording to a test case that can be executed in RSAT?
Well, that would depend on the process itself, but it gets faster once you get used to working with RSAT, and that was the goal with this presentation. We wanted to share with you our experience, and that shows that you have to start preparing from the moment you're creating your FDDs and you have established your processes. Extend those FDDs with some guidelines to instruct the key users how they can record and be ready when the process is already established and tested. So they are ready how to create a recording for RSAT. So I cannot give you an exact timing, but that it gets faster. We have tried both ways to start without any preparations, and that will definitely get back at you. So invest time in preparing.
Yeah. So you advise people to plan before they start doing anything.
Of course, yes.
Good. The next question. RSAT is a large investment, so there is the usual argument, it's too hard, and there is the counter argument, even harder if you don't. Are there any statistics to convince a client that it is worth the investment other than just it makes sense?
Well, to be honest, I haven't encountered any numbers as statistics to help you with, but try uh, to see how many effort you invest when you apply any Microsoft updates, and after the testing that you need to do after applying some of your customization. So each time you have to verify that your business processes are running as they should. So that would be the biggest argument, I would say. You can, as I said, prepare in advance, and then you are doing the recordings. You are doing them as user manuals for your people. So why not do them in one go and do them in a manner that you can automate them? So you are not doubling the work. Just you know how to do the recordings.
Yeah, we can also probably add to that it's not only during the implementation, but it is the life cycle of Dynamics 365 Financial Operations where you're going to use these test cases and automating testers, right?
Yeah, you're right. Yes. We are constantly upgrading our and updating our environment. So we have to have an automation process sooner or later. So it's just the timing.
Okay. Then the next question here, I can see that there has been a little bit in the chat about that question, so let's take it up here. Do you have experience with running RSAT tests in parallel to reduce the duration of running the tests or to abuse the RSAT as a load performance testing tool?
Yes, I've tried to answer in the chat a bit regarding that. That at the moment, RSAT is not announced as a performance testing tool or for parallel working, but I have seen that being part of the Yammer group, someone has advised to use to use separate machines and to take advantage of these local directories that RSAT stores its files, but it's not to that level, to that point that you can fool the system, I would say, and do the uh, performance and parallel working. Uh, I would say that it's not that mature, but for sure in the next versions it is in the plans, but without any strict timelines when this should happen.
Okay. One more question. Can we install the next version of RSAT if we already have an old version of the tool with old Excel parameters and so on?
I can say that just today it was announced in the preview release, the a new version of AirSet 2.2 that will come out publicly in the in late this month or next month, early next month, when where the users will have an easier transition from the Excel parameter files, which are the old ones, to this new version that I was just showing in the presentation. You can this question can have two separate answers. One would be for the installation itself. If you install the new version on top of this one, then your configuration certificate thumbprint settings will be saved there. You don't have to reconfigure it. But the other, as I said, part of this answer will be for the Excel parameter files. The version that I was demonstrating and which is publicly available for download at the very moment, it does not allow you to migrate the values that you have entered in the Excel parameters after the recording. So when you install this version, it will have the new Excel format, but with the values that you have populated in your recording. But Microsoft is working on this new version to be available, as I said, late this month or early next month, because a lot of people have their Excel parameter files in the old version, and they need somehow to migrate them over and to use the new Excel format, which is, by my opinion, more user friendly, and I hope it is also you see it in the same way on your end.
Then I think we can take one more question. Who should be creating and updating the recordings for RSAT? That is normally often a discussion where is it some AX people that should do this, or is it the users, or who is it that actually should have the responsibility for creating these recordings for RSAT?
Well, I would say that it is best to advise the SMEs or the key users to take ownership of these files, of these recordings, but for sure they have to be instructed how to do them in the right way. They have that their process defined already. They know how the process goes, but how to link the different test cases, how to do them in the right automated way, so they can be used in the air set. They should be instructed from the, as I said, very beginning or early phase of the processes when they are established, and you know how your data flows from one area to another. Uh, well, it's different for a standard process and also for a customized process. They will be created in a different phase of the project, but I would say they should take the ownership of these files, and yeah, that would be my advice.
Okay, then I think we are out of questions here. So I would say thank you very much for attending this session. Vera is ready. We are ready to answer any questions. So if you have any questions, then reach out to us or visit our booth, and we can have a detailed discussion about RSAT.
Yes. Thank you, DynamicsCon, for giving us this opportunity to share our own knowledge, to be the part of the community. Feel free to reach out to us, as Thomas said, and see you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye.